Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, welcome to Paranormal Karen. I'm so excited, you guys. We're going to talk to fan favorite. You all know I have not gotten as many emails as I got when I talked to Derek Condit about Shungite, which I got yelled at because I was pronouncing it wrong, Derek.
Oh, funny.
I got like 10 emails. You were saying it wrong. And also, folks, before we get started, I got new dates on the calendar. I'll be in Waco, Texas in, I think it's June. I may be outside of Chicago, an hour away in May. I don't know. But here's the big news. I believe my tarot class is up. I'm a month ahead on this, but you can all order my tarot class. Go to my website, karenrontowski.com or paranormalkaren.com, and you can order it there. But getting to it, I'm actually in Mount Vernon, Washington at Mystic Wares with Derek. Derek, what a great store you have.
Oh, thank you very much. So happy to be here with you.
I know, your podcast was so popular and so one of the best. And I think people just, everywhere I go, people are like, you sent me some stickers. And my friend was like, I got to get a sticker. And I gave him the one out of my phone and took the other one. And my whole family has them now. I don't even know, like your store is just full of it. They can get everything here, right?
They can. There's all kinds of, not just Shungite products, but other things, polished rocks and gems and crystals and readings. And yeah, we like to kind of cover all the bases here.
And I'm fascinated with the powder. So, and before we get to, and folks, we're going to get into Missing 411 and we're going to get into what goes on in the woods and stuff with Derek. But first, I want to ask about making the paint. Could you literally put the powder in nail polish and have it work, or do you need paint?
Nope, great idea. So what you would do is take the powder, and I would start with what we call the Shungite fine powder rather than the granular.
Okay.
And then take your fingernail polish. So if it's a fingernail polish thing, I would get a couple jars, remove it from the container first, stir in the powder. That way you're breaking up any clumps, and then add it back in. And then, yes, put it right on. And what's often not known is there's chakra points on the tips of your fingers.
Oh.
So it's actually a fantastic idea, picking up on doing that. So that's great.
That's interesting, because you know what, too? I finally found, because I'm very plain. You can see, Derek knows I smell because I've been shooting plain.
No.
But I finally found like vegan, healthy nail polish.
Oh,
well, also, I just like that idea. Nail polish, put it on the corners of my bed. You know what I mean? Like you can paint everything with that, and you said ear pods and stuff like that. So, and folks, if you're just turning this on, please go back and listen to the Shungite episode with Derek Condit. And but the other thing I'm so excited about. Okay, I got to set this up for the folks. So there's a movie on Prime called. Well, first of all, I want to start here. This area that we're in Mount Vernon. I'm going to Bellingham. You're an intuitive. You're a give me the whole list. You do everything.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't have a whole lot of limits, so I don't really want to waste too much time with this field. But and once you realize, then we're all that way, so it's more of an understanding thing. But I am an intuitive. I can do remote viewing, astral projection. So then I communicate with guides as well that you may call spirit guides, and then I see energies. So like auras and energies around objects and or living devices and people and things and trees. Yeah.
Now, when you were a kid, did you have like a family that was okay with that, or did you just develop it? I know a lot of times it seems like it has to do with my parents were into it, or it just happened. How did it go for you as a kid?
Oh, that's a big question. So actually, I didn't even know what the word psychic was until my 20s, or intuitive or anything like that.
Wow.
But my mom was the same. So she would hear, quote, voices. In fact, it saved our lives many times. So I think driving down the freeway, she'd get a warning, move lanes, and then something rolled off of a large truck. Kind of thing. And little instances like that would happen a lot. But really, I just thought it was a sense, my sixth sense that everybody had. So I didn't know it was different. So I just kind of grew up with that. So it was interesting growing up that way.
I love how normal, like that seemed normal to you.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so great. Look at how calm Courage is. Courage has been having a tough trip, and he's very happy in your crystal shop.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Oh, he's cute.
So also, did you grow up here?
No, actually, I grew up in California, so I've spent the equivalent portion up here in Washington, but I've lived in 7 states, several countries, so I've been around. So I've done this, and I've spent some military time as well. So
what actually, because this is what I'm finding. My friend that's a Reiki master and demonologist, Jen, that came in, she was not even thinking about, I don't know what, I had read her cards. She was thinking about moving to 2 different places. They drove up here and they bought a house in a day. And then it was amazing to me when I got booked up here, how many people I know here and how many mystical sort of woo, I call them woo woo.
oh yeah, so do I.
You're all drawn here, aren't you?
Oh yeah, and there's a reason, and that's so again, somebody like me that sees energies can think the frequencies, or I see them like radio stations out there. So when you pick up on these environments or energies, you know where to go to reset, recharge, where not to go, places to avoid. So, and there's a lot of that up here. It's interesting.
That would be, do you ever help, that would be a really good business. Do you ever help people buy houses? Like this is the house for you or it isn't?
That's interesting because a couple of days ago on mysticalwares.net, our store's website, I added that option as a session for me where I'll go to your location and I can actually bring in what was on the energy. So the energies that were there previous to you, and at that time, be it entities or whatever's there. So I do that.
Wow.
Yeah,
and can you do that remotely?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Wow. All right, everybody, there's a new thing. I got to connect you with some realtors because I know people are, especially with this weird age that we're in right now, people are getting really kind of freaked out about stuff right now.
Oh, yeah, and that's understandable because it's hard to understand when there's nothing concrete you can look at. But I also think when I do these, remote locations, I don't just look at the big picture and energies and tell you what's going on. Well, you can affect them. So it's not about just giving you a fish, it's about teaching you to fish. So I'll also teach you how to personally have an effect on your environment or your own personality, your people around you, things like that.
See, I already know an hour is not enough time. We haven't even got to why I came here to talk to you. Okay, so that's fantastic. So now, the other thing, you said you were in the military.
I was.
How did you find that? Is that a little counter to who you are, or did it actually kind of fit in?
That's interesting because about 10 seconds before you asked me that, I was given a heads up by my guide that this was going to come up. So, and I was nervous, and you didn't ask. So it started, so I was also, and this is kind of the first outing, I was also what's called the Secret Space Program, things like that. So this is the first time I've talked about it on radio because it's not about me, but it does tie into a lot of things and what happened to me during the military. So I actually joined during Desert Shield, it was called, so back in 91. I was in the Army, so I went to Germany. But it also ties in, and I'm going to finish here. So during my military stint, they would actually take me away to different locations in Germany to actually Hitler's old hideouts, bunkers, the Eagle's Nest, to get and I didn't know about this because I was still so young. I was like, well, why are they taking me away from the units to check out these areas and give impressions? I'm like, can everybody do this? So I was still learning at that stage. I was in my young 20s. But so I did that in Germany for several years.
So now so this is a little bit like Men Who Stare at Goats, right? That movie?
Kind of, sort of, yeah, similar thing. And I tied two things in together. The Secret Space Program, a whole nother deal. That's a whole 20 and back deal that some people may or may not be aware of. And that's kind of think outside of time. But here in the modern day in this live 3D, yes, I had the 4 years, and that's where I was in Germany for most of it.
Wow.
And then travel around.
And stop me if there's anything you can't talk about.
Sure.
But so they figured out that you had something going on psychically or something like that, and they were like, we're gonna use this guy. We're gonna find out stuff.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit more background that I haven't let either. So even in school, I would get taken away from elementary school through high school. Believe it or not, a white van would show up. They'd check me out of class. I'd be gone for half the day, not remember where I was or anything, come back. And this went on through my childhood. And I was reminded, because then I saw a couple newspaper articles when my mom passed that I saw that she had kept. And I'm like, wait, what was this? And I went more to research and I started remembering more. I'm like, well, that's a little unusual that I would be the only one taking it. And this went on for years.
Wow.
So I'm bringing that up because when I got in the military, let's just say all the doors were opened for me and I was very well taken care of. To the point to where my commanders had me calling them dad and things like that,
wow.
Which is unheard of. And it really didn't work out to be a great thing. But regardless, I was kind of, kept separate.
So you were sort of...
And they knew, but I still didn't know. So I was kept ignorant, just kind of, hey, put this soldier in this experience and see what he says and does, because they knew I wasn't completely aware yet. So I wasn't aware of all I prefer the term understandings and abilities, because anybody can activate these things. That's why I don't say abilities. You don't have to be born this way.
You know, once I did an ayahuasca trip and the lady said, don't ever call it a gift. She said, because that separates you from others and it means you think you're special.
I was just going to say, that is exactly it. And I teach classes here about that. I am not special. We're all special.
You have to get your classes online.
I do. I'll have to record some. Yeah.
Yes, I'm doing my tarot. If you ever want help with that, call me, because I'm finally getting my tarot class up. But so did your mother know this was going on?
No, she passed when I was 18, so pre-military. But she knew about the voices, this and that. It even goes back from that to where. So she was a twin. She was actually kidnapped for a couple of days and then brought back to the family by these same mystical white vans. It runs in my family, so I'm really jumping through the stages here. It's a whole other radio show.
But she knew you were safe.
I don't think she knew anything, to be honest. Wow. No, because our memories would be wiped a lot of the time, and that's all legit. So I'd come back, just have no memory, and then, half the day's gone.
So you still don't remember what happened? Like, do you remember if it was Men in Black or it was regular people? Or?
It was regular. So now I do, because I've let's just say honed my understanding such that now there's no difference. I can just jump back and look at it. Think astral projection back in time. So now I'm like, you can't keep this from me now. So I do that occasional look. It was just typical job for the people picking me up. But then I was brought to a building, put in with other kids that were taken from other schools. So long story short, it was the empaths and intuitives of the Orange County, that area. So they would take us there, and various classes, various questions, tests, or drawings, it doesn't matter, and then brought back to school. And that just goes on. And that happens today. People they think it's all World War II stuff or Nazi, this, that, and that. No, this all happens today.
And it's probably now with the Rainbow Kids and you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's probably even more, okay. My mind is blown already. Okay, so before we get out of this topic, so our military is doing something with this.
Oh, sure. They've never stopped.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. If you can imagine it, they're doing it and then some. And again, I would when I was in Mannheim, Germany, I was there for, 3.5 years or something. They would literally put me on a bus, my own bus, and take me to, I think it was called the Eagle's Nest. So it was Berchtesgadens, Germany, and that's where Hitler had a hideout, all this kind of stuff, and underground bunkers and things. And I'd go on these secret tours with colonels, and begin to just me and maybe one or two others sometimes. And then in these hotels, where it'd be just us. That's a little odd too.
Right.
But it went on and on through the years as I was there. So.
And they would just ask you what you were feeling and what you thought happened?
It was more observe, but then, so now you get into the part that I wasn't sure. So what they were actually doing was checking at nighttime. Sure? No, so I'll just go ahead and be blunt, I guess. So they'd wait. I'd have my daytime 3D experiences walking around. I'd go to sleep, and then I'll just say the mistake was made one time where I actually woke up when I was asleep, and they would what would be called deprogram me, ask me questions in etheric form sometimes. So there's many levels to this. I don't know how if your audience is completely out there in the woo.
Oh no, they're in.
Okay,
they're
great.
On board.
I mean, because I've woken up floating in the room, straight up they're levitating you out of the room, and I'm like, what in the heck is going on?
And you didn't feel that was scary or demonic. It was them doing it to you.
Oh, I would see it. Oh no, I know it was, because then I'd use my intuition and go, okay, who's behind this? Especially now, because I'm always looking at the next step, and usually there's a facade in front, a fake one. Be it person or entity or whatever, because sometimes they'll use fake ETs to do this. So you think it's a whole abduction scenario. Well, there's little guys in a white van outside. Yeah, so I mean, it's all perspective. So,
Wow. So it goes on now, and you think, so you think they were testing you or making sure, or what happened? Like if you were in Hitler's, in Germany with something, does that feel awful to you? Does it, or do you separate yourself from it?
No, it's a movie to me. It's just that. And because I've done this many lifetimes, not to shatter any religions here, but I've been here many times. Most of us have. So because of that, and then think your spirit or soul is adept at a certain vehicle, your physical body, and mine was. So they felt, well, we'll put them in a, quote, psychic body and empathic body. And this, that. So options on your dashboard of the vehicle kind of deal. So that's what they kind of do. So another big picture is there, but that's what happens. So once that person or entity is in that vehicle with those abilities activated, then they put them there to experience. So think like building a device sort of thing and planning it out generations, but they're not vehicles, they're people. Yeah.
Now, do you think that other people who are not as aware that the military really is could be programming them to do things like, I mean, for lack of a better term, a Timothy McVeigh or somebody, that the military may be programming minds for people to do what they want them to?
With 100%.
Wow.
Absolutely. On so many levels. And then it's a tie-in between chemicals and frequencies and the combination, and it's all these things are in our our air, water, food. Good luck on avoiding it.
Right, fluoride and everything.
All of it, from chlorine, fluoride, then it's in the air now. I mean, you can go on, but it's all there. So really, the fix is not to stress on it, but go inside and start looking at yourself and affect that and your energies. So,
which leads me to coronavirus, which this is coming out, I think, in April or May, and we're taping it in March. Okay, so coronavirus, which right now in March, this is my experience, red flags, be worried, be terrified. I was in Vegas last week, now I'm in Seattle, so all the high, Vegas is a petri dish of viruses anyways, but and they said Seattle's a ghost town. Traffic was horrible. It's packed. The planes are packed and no one is concerned. Is this just the media trying to do something crazy? Should we be worried, or just, I'm just taking care of my immune system. That's all I got.
And that's what you should do. Exactly. And your thoughts are part of your immune system. So that matters, our thoughts and feelings. So yes, that's all that needs to be done. And no, you're right, it's not a ghost town, and there's no big panic around here in the Washington area, and there has not been.
Nothing.
No, it's not at all. It's one nursing home where there were other complications involved and all of that. So no, there's nobody walking in our story, for example, with masks on or anything like that. No, it's a bunch of hype. And it's already starting to die down in China anyway. And then when I looked at this a couple of weeks ago, we had already had 19,000 deaths from the common flu, and we had 4 from coronavirus. So I think our perspective's a little twisted.
It's a weird thing in the way it's unraveling, because I know when I was reading tarot, I kept telling everybody there's something in February, And I kept saying, though, I thought it was going to be a terrorist attack or it was going to be an earthquake, but I was like, there's something that everybody's going to be, alerted. I would have never guessed it was a virus. I didn't look in that far. But it is interesting how the whole thing has, it's not just, it's like the stock market and the whole thing, and the supermarkets are emptying out of stuff. And I'm like, wow, for some reason, Orange County has no toilet paper. I don't know what they think is going to happen with the flu, but they're like, there's no, so just work on your immune system, stay positive, and do the best you can, right?
Yeah. And what they're doing is playing on frequency. So when you saw something maybe coming in February, the energy, and they can call it Schumann resonance, lots of names for frequency in the environment, is such that our immune systems can be slightly compromised. Well, they know that. We'll just say they with air quotes here. Well, then these certain things get released for a reason. There's so much behind all this and things we have to fight for. But really, again, keep it internal focus on your love or heart chakra, that feeling that we all have, and stay in that environment, and you're going to heal yourself.
Wow. All right, folks, we'll be right back. We just got started. We haven't even gotten to the topic I picked. Hey, everybody, it's me doing an ad for me. That's right. I keep forgetting to say this at the end, so I had to take out an ad on my own podcast. First of all, thanks for listening, and I love all your feedback. If you have a comment or a story or just want to say hi, email me at karenrontowski@gmail.com. Also, go to karenrontowski.com or paranormalkaren.com, and you can get my tarot class. That's right. It took me 2 years to put it together. It's 8 classes, about an hour each. You will be reading tarot by the end. While you're there, sign up for my email list. Everyone should do this. I only send out an email about every 2 to 3 months, and it's filled with typos and misspellings, so you know I haven't been kidnapped, and that's the best way to keep up on comedy dates and whatever is new. While you're there, you can book a 30 or 60-minute tarot reading, or you can get a gift certificate for somebody else. I got a little bit of merch left. If you want a Paranormal Karen Shungite sticker for your phone to make it safer, you can email me about that, or I now sell Paranormal Karen reusable straws. You take them with you wherever you go. Maybe you're doing cocaine with someone that doesn't look like they're clean. Boom, you got your own straw. KarenRontowski.com. All right, so we covered the big stuff. Now, this is what I'm obsessed with, and I love this, and this was what we talked about for a minute on the last time I interviewed you. There's a movie out, and it's called Missing 411, and it's about all the people that are going missing in the national parks. And folks, I think I talked about it on an earlier podcast. This is a police officer that put together all these stories about people that just went missing, and they're very odd. Like someone will end up, we're 20 feet away and I say, hey, Derek, I'm going to pick some berries. Turn around, you're gone. Or the reason I like this particular one episode of what he did was because he was interviewing hunters that had disappeared, which means they knew the woods. They've been in the woods all their life. This was something that they couldn't figure out. They would sweep the woods 3 times. The third time they come back, the guy's shoes are next to his folded clothes with a thermos open, and it has no rhyme or reason. Now, the guy that put these together was a cop, and he did it all very 3D, as we want to say. And this last video is where he started to lean into there's a portal or there's something going on. Because the other thing is, and you can correct me on this if you know more. They said there's certain things that happen. The person started to not feel well. They sit for a minute. They're gone. As soon as the search party comes in, there's a weather event. A storm comes up, a windstorm or a rainstorm or something that sort of delays it. Now, you have remote viewed where these people, is that what it's called? Where you
That'd be one way to terminate it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay. So what happens, and we're going full woo-woo.
Yep, no problem.
That's my favorite word.
Good.
So because you've gone and helped them look for some people.
Yeah, and we come up on the vehicles ourselves because I live in Darrington, Washington. So, and that's the middle of the Cascades. You have to drive 2 cities away for a traffic signal.
Wow.
So we're in the boonies, as it's called, and these are the hiking trails.
When he put the map up, I had to go look because this part of Washington has more disappearances than anywhere.
Oh, sure.
Wow. So what's happening?
Yeah, that's a big question, and of course, each instance is different, or at least slightly different. So one example is, and you had made a point of, well, when they search one area and then all of a sudden nothing's there and then it's there. So what I've done, and I got confused doing this once, is I would do the whole remote viewing thing so I can things out of time. So I don't have to look at this moment. I can go back 6 months or whatever. Just choose your point. It's all perspective. It's all quantum entanglement. So then I would choose 5 minutes before or something. And what I would see is, the only way I can describe it is a shift in frequencies. So it's like turning from the station. If you're trying to hide something, you're listening to country music and somebody walks in the room, you turn it really quick and you got disco. Well, that's what happens even though their body or equipment is there. The environment is shifted to another time just in that area. No? You could call it that. Okay. So that environment, I don't care if it's a 100-foot patch, would be, say, 10 minutes before or something. Usually go longer, but it's hard. So think of bubble. You can affect environments with frequencies. So meaning give it a frequency of a week before. So when somebody looks at that log and they're just walking by it, they're going to see that log from a week before, even though maybe somebody's sitting on it. So that you can think invisibility.
So the person could be there.
Oh yeah, they are there, and even they're out of frequency. They're out of focus. So that's why psychics and others, intuitives in different ways can see it, because they're looking at many channels at once, not just the 3D level. So when I'm out there and I want to experience or interact with Sasquatch or Bigfoot, they'll do it straight up in 3D and etherically. It depends, and they're all different.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So see, now I got to talk to you about lucid dreaming later. I got to talk about Bigfoot. I got to talk about all these things. So basically, the hunter is out there. He goes and sits on a rock, and the timeline shifts. So he's there, and nobody can see him, or his stuff is there, and nobody sees it the first 2 times by.
So, for example, the last one. So I was looking at an instance that happened. I won't apply names to this. The hunter was actually killed. And so he was still there, and all his equipment, everything was there. But when the search parties went through, it was just kind of out of step or out of sequence. So they didn't see it, kind of thing. And this happens with what people call vortexes and energies.
Right.
It's really just a shifting or turning of the radio station for a moment. So it's all perspective. I don't have the terms.
So that's why they're gone and then they come back.
That's right, yeah. And then they'll come back in, and weather events have a big factor on it. So sometimes they're manufactured. In fact, in Darrington, near our house, is the largest antenna array on the planet. It's built out of the mountains. So it's actually a valley built in. There's antennas all along it.
These are man-made antennas.
Yes, correct. Military. And they talk to submarines. It's a low frequency one. So what they're doing, long story short, is they've turned our environment into a movie. Whole other topic again. I'm all over the place. But our environment, 3D environment, is a movie screen that they can project into in 3D in any space and time. So once you know that, you're walking around in a movie. So that's all they're doing. And Sasquatch do this on their own.
Well, that's the thing, because it's almost, we are almost all on the same topic of what is disappearing and what we've seen. Okay, so you don't think these people disappearing have to do with the military, do you?
Okay, yes, some of them do. So I've looked at that as well. Yes, military have taken some, and ETs have taken some, and some have just had accidents out there. So it's really the whole gamut. It all happens.
The accident is they fell between timelines or something like that so that we don't see them?
That happens as well.
So basically the military could project something on me right here so that I would be like, okay, where's Derek?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Really?
And you'd have to reach through it, sort of thing. Oh yeah, it's been in movies and things. The people they take because they stumble up on things. They're finding different, we'll just say be vague, things that are right here in the forest that the military puts, and they're right here in this area. If you find too much, they don't want somebody going out and, announcing that this is out there or the other.
So I go out there and I'm like, oh, here it is. I'm going to put it on my podcast. And they go, no, you're not.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, they just mind wipe. There's lots of ways of doing it. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, sometimes with this podcast, things get weird. I don't know what the
Doesn't surprise me.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what. And it's interesting in that, not to get off topic, but like a lot of my friends that do conspiracies, and I have one that I feel like he goes a little farther than I would, but he got knocked off YouTube like that. Like all of a sudden he's off YouTube. And I can't figure out if it's them working, the plausible deniability where like, well, we don't have to worry about Paranormal Karen because she's so nutty. If she stumbles upon one truth, we're not worried.
Yeah.
But it seems like they're just, I don't know. Is that actually separate from politics or is it the same? Like, I feel like there's a military doing its own thing. They don't care who's the president because they're not even involved.
Two different stories happening. They're both stages on this play of life and completely different acts. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so these hunters go out and some of them say they just stumble. So you don't think something's grabbing them. It's literally an accident.
It depends on each one. Some have, so there's been the ET abduction ones where they'll actually make, you can call it a portal, where they'll just pull the person in and that kind of thing. And they're just gone 100%. No socks, shoes, nothing left. And that's where I've come up on this, their vehicle. So I'll drive, because I'll do what's called a mountain road on the way to work to avoid all the traffic. And I have a Jeep, so I can do that. And I'll see a vehicle one day on the side of the road where nobody travels these roads. So if it's there after these certain days, I know, well, let's start looking. So then I'll go out there and do the whole remote viewing thing or astral project at night and see what I can see. And it differs every time. But then the next thing I hear, about 2 weeks later, it comes across the news, vehicle found. I'm like, well, vehicle found, I alerted you 2 weeks ago. Yeah, you might want to have announced it then. So there's a huge story to this and not alerted all the time. The searches are stopped way too soon because people are still found coming out of the woods after the searches have stopped. So
that's what I was going to ask you. So some people have come back.
Oh, yeah. They'll just wander out of the woods and I don't know where we were. What do you mean we've been gone 4 days? We've been gone 2 days. And that's when, I guess, the whole mind wipe thing. So they're taken away. It doesn't matter how it's done because their mind's being wiped anyway. And then they're brought back. And there's lots of ways of doing it. So I don't know exactly how each case is happening. But when the people come back, and the last one was a middle-aged man and husband, or man and wife, so a couple, came back and they had no idea where they were. It was just one of those things.
And they were together. They disappeared together.
Yeah, they were together.
Wow.
Yeah, they've had all where people show with their shoes missing, the scenarios are endless. And most you never hear about because I'm in the area, so I hear, but I'm watching the national news. I'm like, oh, well, they didn't know about that one. They're not talking about this one. And my wife, Maureen, and I are just like, why isn't this on the news? Or we'll see the actual vehicle. Because again, I live out in the mountains.
That is a thing because for this guy that did, this detective that did it, which I think for people to digest something, they need it on the 3D level and then they can come here. So the couple, they may have been abducted by aliens, or could they have literally for them, it was literally 2 minutes. Like we were here and then we were here. What do you mean it's Thursday?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could have been. There's little time slips and things like that. Wow. So we all have our own perspective. So on that particular one I looked, it was an abduction scenario. So they were taken, things done, put to sleep, brought back, and that kind of thing.
It's funny, speaking of time slips, I'm going to need one today to hold you here for 2 hours. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. So when the ETs are grabbing them, like, are you of the school? I'm of the school of thought that we're alien DNA.
Oh yeah, we're mutts.
We're mutts,
absolutely.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so when they're taking us, do you know their intention? Are they fixing? Are they like trying to save us? Are they against us? Or there's so many that are doing so many different things we don't know.
There's such a big picture. It's like talking about a pet store, and then each customer walking in there, some have good intentions, some have bad, things like that. And so there's such a huge scenario. It's incredible. And then many they are taking, doing testing on, but also, so I think one example to show that's happening is every animal or insect or bird or fish or whatever in our environment on Earth has the skin or the fur or the scales for its environment, but humans. Why are we, as I jokingly say, little naked pink monkeys running around the planet? So we're out of place. So yes, we're modified. So it's that same thing when we're doing genetic testing on other animals. It's a big terrarium. Think of it that way. Wow. And unfortunately, some of us in the terrarium are walking up to the glass, looking through it, saying, gotcha, there's more out there. And then we realize, wait a minute, it's not a terrarium. It's a whole pet store. There's many terrariums. So huge picture.
You know, I did a episode on synchronicities. I watched this whole thing on synchronicities, and I was trying to explain that the Matrix. So the Matrix wants us all along the same lines. They want us just do your work, go home, don't ask questions. Mm-hmm. And then the minute someone has an experience or goes, I'm going to go paranormal investigating, it's like a one-off. It's like the fabric. There's a thread that went off, and then all paranormal things go, wait a minute. They look at that one, which is why paranormal things, I guess the guy said, when someone, rarely do people have one experience. All the paranormal can be attracted to them. So I'm going to break down some alien stuff or see if this makes sense to you. So you have your guides right here that talk to you all the time.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And then would it be a level, then above that level might be God or the universe, like it's sort of a ladder, or no?
No, how I see it is it's all everywhere at once. So and what I have here in my presence with Karen is a C60 molecule, a shape. So think soccer ball shape. It's sacred geometry. So it's your perspective. Everything is everywhere. It's not linear, just like there's no past, present, and future. It's not a line. It's all your perspective. So it's all happening at once sort of thing. So it depends on when you're talking about maybe people having paranormal experiences. That means, so an example or analogy would be they found an extra crayon that wasn't included in their 12 crayon box, but once they have that crayon and they know they have it, then they can keep drawing their picture, their experience, building their universe, their life with it. And we call them chakras sometimes, or energy centers. So let's go with the chakra term. If you turn on your chakras, and there's more than we're often told, those are senses. So, of course, we're not just limited to our 5 senses in this life that we're told, our sight, touch, smell. No, we have our 6th sense, our third eye, our gut, our heart chakras. And these are other senses that we should probably look at first, and then that expands your view in this environment.
Wow. You know, I've often spoken, my best friend's an animal communicator, and we've looked for lost dogs. And I always use the example of the dog that runs away. We had a dog run away, had a sweater on. 3 months later comes back, sweater on, clean, just like he left, which is either one of those time slips or loops, because otherwise someone would have had to taken him, feeding him for 3 months, wash the sweater, put it back on, and it doesn't make any sense. So we think I'm pointing at Courage, who looks so happy in the Shungite store. So here's where so it's all one time. So we have our guides, and just a tip to people, they just need to be open and hear it. And they'll get messages from their guides, right? Oh,
yeah, and don't expect to hear some voice. So don't sit there and think, I'm going to hear some French guy with an accent. No, you're going to hear your own thoughts and feelings. It's really stopping your logical mind, and your imagination happens. Your imagination is real. It's more real than this table in front of us. We're just not taught that. So slow down your thought. Don't build the story in your head. Let the story play out, and that's your intuition or psychic abilities. And we all have it.
So I have, in fact, I always feel like, and this is what I talked about on my tarot class, I didn't know if I was psychic. So I said, if I learn everything about these cards and put them together like a puzzle, I'll know how to do this. But what happened was, as I'm doing this, it sort of woke up all my intuitive stuff. So I had the strangest day yesterday, which, by the way, for strange, 2020 is off the chart.
I agree.
Is that just because we're moving into that age of Aquarius?
There's been what I term added frequencies. So a lot of people say, well, we're all getting an upgrade, this, that, and well, think more, there's additional radio stations available. Now it's for each of us to tune our chakras or our dials on this body to access it. So there's more available, but it's for each of us to figure out and again, focus and tune.
Is that why, like, I have to tell you, I'm 54, I never get sick. I do yoga every day. I'm never ill. I've got more injuries in 2020 than ever before, which is it just my body trying to tune into that frequency, these new frequencies?
No, your energy, when I look at energies and I can see auras or orgone fields around people and things like I mentioned, they're thinner now. So I guess you can say the veil is thinner. Lots of ways I've heard this put on the internet. So you don't have as dense or a 3D physical body. It's really hard to get across, but your energy body in the 3D is a little more malleable now. So that if you're willing to take these, again, air quotes, upgrades or additional frequencies and integrate them, you'll enhance your abilities. So again, I avoid the term abilities. So think intuition or empathic abilities. They're understandings. So as you keep figuring stuff out in this life and putting puzzle pieces together, these abilities will turn on.
See, and I feel like my readings went to a different level. Like all of a sudden in 2020, I was reading a lot of elemental stuff, which doesn't come up in my readings, but I was like reading people's land and stuff like that. So, all right. So that could be why I even lost my place. Okay. So I got to tell you about a day I had the other day. So empaths are that's why a lot of readings I'm getting now are empaths that don't know what to do, that don't know how to protect, right? Okay. So, the other day I was foggy, and I was doing my readings, and I meditate in the morning to just focus in, and I felt like as soon as like a client was sitting there and I closed my eyes and I was almost immediately lucid dreaming. And that's new for me. And I was like in another place. Like I felt like I was in two places at once. I'm doing this reading here and then I'm somewhere else. The other thing that happened that day when I meditated, right? I got like 4 visions right away, and they were me in Russia in a fuzzy Russian hat. Okay. I think that's another me, or I don't know what it was a house being sunk under the water. The water was rising over the house, train upside down. And then there was one more I can't remember. Now, I don't even think these were like news things. Like I don't think something's going on in Russia and then a train's turning upside down, this and that. Do you any idea what those would be? Because I know a lot of us think that's schizophrenia, or that's, what is this? What are these things that mean nothing or are coming out of nowhere or possibly mean something I can't compute? Oh,
sure. No, those are because the veil or the frequencies are different now, the energies. So think of I grew up with a TV with rabbit ear antennas, and they had a bunch of aluminum foil on it. So what's happening is you're getting longer antennas and you're adjusting your aluminum foil. So because you're getting additional frequencies or energies, you're getting snapshots of, you would call them timelines, things like that. And because they're not in a linear fashion, meaning a line from A to B sort of thing, they're all over in a sphere. That's why sometimes they'll be upside down. Your perspective, it doesn't matter. It's
okay.
So there's segments.
Okay, so I just pulled the train thing from upside down.
You're just running through the dials on your radio is what's happening, because you weren't actively controlling your heart chakra and your sixth sense, your third eye chakras, that frequencies were coming in. So think just like jumping through the channels really quick sort of thing. So all kinds of stuff can come in.
Now, is that, can that help me get more psychic, or should I hone in on that? Or do you, like, you know how they meditate, they want you to just blank out? I can do that, but I often, like on the morning, sometimes I want to see if I can get the news for the day. And usually I can get a month of news, but I can't go get the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So is it better when that happens to try and calm the mind and go into one place?
That, I like the way you termed that, because what I would suggest is when somebody's trying to do that, or they're feeling they want to go intuitive or use their abilities, I would suggest not going outside and bringing things in. Always go inside your heart, and this is all done with your imagination. And that's your heart chakra. So again, use your imagination, go inside there, and then pull the information from out. So from inside out, and think of your heart as your firewall or virus scanner on your computer. So often we're taught when we're meditating, looking for information, bring it from outside the universe and bring it in, or shoot your energies out there or through the planet. Well, that's think a big flag, and not everything out there is happy-go-lucky. There's good,
Right.
bad, and indifferent. So always I would suggest going within your own heart.
Okay.
So again, think firewall, virus scanner. So then you know that's your truth meter, your lie detector.
So I would meditate on the light in my heart and go, this is where I want to take my information from.
All your information is in your heart. That's it. Exactly. Because if you bring it from outside, people can do overlays. So again, think malware on your computer or a virus and you don't know it's there. So I would suggest running through your firewall or virus scanner.
You know, that was such an interesting day because also I have my cleaning ritual in the morning is I have a dragon. My friend insisted, that's my spirit animal or whatever. And this dragon starts at one end of my apartment, goes through all the walls, and then he blows the floor up. And that's just my way of, whatever, cleaning my room with this light, cleaning my apartment with this light. But the other day before this happened, this dragon looked at me and said, shh, we're going to do this quietly. And I don't know what that was about, but I don't know if he was trying to hide us or what. But it's interesting because after that, I was playing my singing bowls, and I know how my house settles, and I know when something's leaving it. So there was like a big crack from an area of the apartment that doesn't settle. And I was like, did something I don't like this frequency, and it went?
That's interesting because as you're talking, that's what I get is visuals. So think of a playlist on your computer or your phone, a bunch of songs, 100 songs. What was removed by your dragon friend, there's lots of ways of viewing that, was think songs from the 80s that you don't need anymore, or frequencies. But what he was also doing was filling it in with, think, a love energy or white light. So not deciding what to put in that space, but removing the excess. Sometimes we call these things attachments, overages, heavy energies, karma, lots of names for it. But we don't need these old songs on our playlist. And our playlist is our energy body. So we can get rid of these frequencies by using our imagination, our intent. But I would suggest not hitting delete on a song or an experience you had without filling it in, again, with love. Or think etheric stem cells, however you want to use your imagination. Wow. But given a placeholder with love, and then you can reset. And that's what he was hoping you do.
Wow. So, yeah, and hang on a sec, folks, if this tape went funny. No, we're good. Okay, hang on, folks. We'll be right back with Derek Condit from mysticalwares or cosmicrealities.net. Yes. Okay. Psychic medium and buddy of mine, Terry Huberman, is with me today. Terry, you've given me so many great readings and healings, and now you've got everything together in one package. Tell me about that.
I sure do. So this package has energy healings, readings, and coaching.
Coaching, that's the best. And people, they buy the package. You give them coaching once a week?
Yeah, so we meet online once a week, and in between, there's support as well.
And who would this be for?
This is really for folks who are in indecision, needing to get into their intuition because they're blocked or stuck. They need to move forward. And so we explore what the root causes of the problems are.
And helps them get out of their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrific. And what can they expect from this?
Sure. So moving from anxiousness to confidence, accessing their freedom, joy, and security, and really being in alignment with themselves so they have that clear direction, so they know, aha, this is what I need to do next to reach my goals.
So now there's something that's free so people can talk to you and see if this is for them.
Yeah, absolutely. On my website, terryhuberman.com, there is a page where you can click, and it's the intuitive coaching package. And there is a button there that says schedule a free call. So you go ahead, schedule it. We'll get on a call and you can learn more about this program, and we'll see if this is a good fit for you or not.
See if there's chemistry.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's an odd date.
TerryHuberman.com, TerryHuberman. I highly recommend it, folks. So, I think my connection is with the Orions, who, those are my people. We make belts. That's my joke.
Funny.
So I'm reading this book of someone that is channeling the Orion Council. Okay. And I really like it because I guess they're ETs and they're very much of love and light, but they almost sound more like guides. Because it's very, very positive. Do these do sort of ET entities or things, how would I know if something was tricking me? Because of, I had a very bad fairy attachment once, but it was literally by me mistaken and not knowing an invitation, that I gave it an invitation, and then it was attached, and then I had to get rid of it. So I'm very, very careful about inviting, and I read tarot in my apartment, which means I'm creating all kinds of cosmic energy anyways. So how would you know, like especially with ETs, what is good or bad?
What I do is so it's always check your guides, your spirit guides, or whatever you want to call them, helpers, invisible friends, are always there. So an important thing to remember is that just because most of us can't see them all the time, but we usually feel them on occasion, they're always there to help. So then speak to yourself, and it doesn't have to be out loud. It can be in your head or out loud, either way. But think, I want only what's best or in alignment with my higher self.
Okay.
And that way you're limiting what songs or experiences you have, but not pretending to know what's going on specifically. Because of course we're limited in human capacity. And then if we even astral project at nights, you don't quite know what you're doing in spirit form. So when you wake up in the morning, I would suggest to people, I would probably say, again, just that. Talk to your higher self. Say, I revoke any dream state agreements that are not in alignment with my higher self. And that way, if you did any agreements out there and you don't remember them, because most of us don't, and if they were good, then your higher self says, oh, we'll keep those. But if they were not in alignment with your higher self, and again, we don't have to know that. We're just telling our guides and our self, delete those if they're not good, because we can get tricked sometimes.
You know what? That's interesting. And by the way, folks, because I always get a lot of EVPs on my recording, that was Courage snoring. Courage was snoring. So that's interesting because, I don't have good dreams. I don't have nightmares, but I'm never comfortable where my dreams are. And I wake up in the morning, I'm actually not a depressed person, and I see little Courage, and I immediately say a gratitude prayer that I got this little guy with me. So in other words, I might be off in these darker places making contracts that I need to clear in the morning.
You do, and that's what I was just checking. So I know those listening didn't see it, but I'm glancing above you. So as you speak, a little movie kind of plays.
Yeah.
So I'm checking, so while I'm listening, I'm saying, okay, where's she going? What's she doing? And yes, you are leaving your body, astral projecting. Not that unusual. So yes, I would, again, we don't have to pretend like we know what we did or anything. And you don't have to go through that whole spiel of exactly what I said. You can go give yourself a trigger word, say pineapple. So every time in the morning when you say pineapple, tell your guides what that means is I revoke any agreements I made that are not best for me. And then they'll go through it and look at these different agreements you did and decide.
What's a good word? It would be coffee.
Coffee. Yeah, because you're going to do it and say it.
That's so funny. Yeah. And just now, I know I'm jumping all over, and we're going to get to Bigfoot, folks. And we're going to actually skinwalker, which I'd love to ask you about. Sometimes in my apartment, one thing comes through and it feels like a cat, and it just sweeps up and it goes through. And I always think, and it literally, like I've had clients go, what just rubbed up against my leg? And he'll be in the other room. Do you feel like when that happens, I kind of immediately do like a dragon's blood resin or something like that? But it's not all bad. It's just stuff, right?
Yeah, that's funny because as you're saying that, again, I get to watch the movie.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's like a little furry cat or dog with wings, believe it or not. I'd never seen that. So I think nature, spirit, and you're big time connected to that.
It's funny because you know what it does? And I swear, this is what I see in my mind. It runs through and then it stops, and I feel like it's a cartoon where like the thing can't get its feet and it goes like the feet are moving faster, and then it goes zoom and it goes out.
Yeah, it can fly. It's a little, I don't even know what they're called. I don't know if they've even given names in folklore, but yeah, a nature entity is what I call it. So you're really connected to that kind of thing. And they'll be around you in your frequency is why they'll be that way.
There's something about that. I know the trees in my apartment, I'm very, like when they trim them, I do a meditation where I go under the ground and I hold their hands. I hold their roots because I feel like, so 100 questions. I want to get to Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. So now some are good, some are bad, just like people, right? With Bigfoot?
Yep, good, bad, and indifferent. Yep.
And they're just stepping in through other timelines and stepping out?
Some, so that's also a bigger picture thing. So I've come up on them in the etheric, in the 3D. Seen them running across a highway. So with a group of other people. So it's like humans. Some are intuitive or psychic. Some aren't, or some are getting there. So it's, again, they're just in a different vehicle. finishing their lessons here on Earth in that form. So it's not all Sasquatch or Bigfoot or psychic and this, that, and the other. Well, a lot of them are, not all of them. So it's the same thing.
They're doing their thing. So now when they are, would you say they're more aware than us?
Oh, they're absolutely, without a doubt. They're a people. They're not an animal. They're way more advanced than us, if you're thinking about that spiritually. Because, again, are they driving vehicles? Are they building houses? Are they living naturally in their environment, sustainably, and, not making chemicals out of what's natural? I mean, they're doing it right. So
right, because I feel like they seem smarter than us. There's something and we haven't caught one.
Oh, well, unfortunately we have, and many times. Oh, yeah, the government's caught. Oh,
so
yeah,
they have them, the military has them?
Oh, absolutely. If Sasquatch weren't real, then so let's say if the military, they're not acknowledging it, because then they'd have to put on the endangered species list and acknowledge them. Well, they're not, and there's reasons for that. They're way more advanced than us.
Wow.
They have ships. So on a whole other woohoo side of the subject, groups, just like groups of humans, have spaceships. Granted, not everybody. No, we don't have a George Jetson environment right here with you and I. But yes, in certain sectors, they absolutely have these ships. And so do the Sasquatch. They're a people. Some choose to live out their lives down here and think, kind of tribal formers, natural environment. Some are techie. No, there's the whole gambit of all of it. So.
Now, when you say so, there's people with spaceships. Because two things. Because I remember my friend talked about people that lived around Area 51. They would see, like, one lady had a tiny spaceship with a guy sitting in it, came in front of her, waved at her, and then took off. Is that us or is that somebody else?
It's all. So I'm a retired correctional officer. So I worked at a state prison for 16 years. On my last day at probably high noon when I went to sign my papers, there was a spaceship above the big yard, it's called, probably 300 inmates in there. Nobody sees a spaceship. And I'm driving up, and so this is Woohoo Derek, of course. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Somebody else has to be somewhat aware. So then I thought, okay, I'll ask to project. So I jumped inside the space. While I'm driving, I look inside. Well, then that's when it kind of shimmered and shaken and went away, because they noticed somebody was paying attention. Oh, yeah. Well, more than that, I basically opened the front door and looked inside. And they weren't real happy about that. They were kind of shocked. But yeah, it all happens. And it's different reasons for it each time. So each circumstance is different.
Now working in a correctional place, you must have seen a lot of dark stuff.
Oh, yeah, because it was a maximum security prison. So there were literally serial killers there. And I'd sit inside when you worked inside. It's open. They're not in cells. It's dormitory. So I'd sit down with a half dozen of them. They'd like to tell their stories. So you'd hear and see it all. And then, of course, they all have their invisible friends above them. And then half of the inmates would be dubbed schizophrenic or hearing voices, whatever they want to dub them. Well, I would see they're not just hearing voices. There's an actual entity above them. And I'm watching them get basically given chemicals, so prescription drugs, making the voices louder or bringing in other ones. It would weaken their energy field or aura, so basically letting more in. So you see all kinds of things.
So I spoke with a couple of people that had near-death experiences, and one of the biggest things they said was, we have misdiagnosed schizophrenia. So they're either, like you said, other timelines are hearing things or hearing entities, which probably the darker are easier to hear than the light, or would there be a reason why they hear the darker, or is it just because they're afraid, so they're attracting that vibration?
The negative are the ones screaming, wanting attention. The more positive are the ones letting you find them and experience them on their own. So think unable to focus your radio, or let's go with the TV. And I'm old school, so I had these channels where you'd have the white noise in between channels. So that's what it is a blending for some of these people that call it schizophrenic. They're getting merging of channels and frequencies, and so it's kind of all at once sort of thing. And some entities, again, they're not all positive, kind of ride in on this, and some, let's just say, sustain themselves off negative energy, because we all live off energy in one form or another. I don't care if you're in an etheric form or a 3D form, we don't think of it that way. Some just again like negative, we'll just kind of put it that way. So they'll want to keep you spun up, keep you excited, because they'll draw that aura or energy field off of you.
Wow. So would some of them be possessed?
You can see it that's when the negative entity, and I've seen it that way, is so much in their energy field that they kind of have controls. So think a passenger in your car with you grabbing the steering wheel. They're not shoving you out of the driver's seat, but they can sure reach over and grab that steering wheel, and every once in a while make somebody else think they're in the driver's. Yeah, so that happens.
So possession, they're not in at 100%. They can be in and out.
Oh, it happened. And so that's another big picture, different levels. So if somebody was really high on drugs and alcohol all at once, that weakens your energy field. So then say 90% possession. Or if you're not and you're more in yourself, then it's all a percentage thing.
Wow.
So
are there like literally, how do I say this, people out there who there's no one in the body?
Yeah, I think non-player characters, like for a gamer, that would be the person you'd walk up to in a game and they're just filling a spot. So sometimes they're filler, or sometimes the entity jumps in, they're on autopilot. Think of it that way, and then they'll come in for the experience and then step out because they can't be on, let's call it a Disneyland ride down here, and part of it's scary, so they'll step out, put the entity on autopilot. Sometimes I've seen with animals, a different animal will jump in and think drive for a while. And
we were talking about that because it's kind of like I got him in a very it was a very purposeful that he would end up to be my dog. And I always think if that situation, something messed up that situation, that spirit would go into another dog and I'd get that dog, so I'd get the same courage, just a different body.
He just said it without a doubt, so I communicated with animals well. You had no option. Oh yeah, you had no option. You were going to have him no matter what.
Right?
That's great. Well, don't you want your best friend doing whatever it takes to come?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he's pretty amazing. Right? Knows everything but earthquakes.
Yeah.
Sense of earthquake. You all right, boss? All right. He knows we're talking about him, so he's getting up. I know he's tired from traveling.
Oh, I don't blame him.
So I keep thinking. So did you have to keep your protection up in this prison, or did you? You're kind of in that space, so you don't worry about it.
No, and good question. So, and actually, I would reverse it back. So, I never protect myself. Protection puts you in a state or weakness or energy field. Think armor instead. So think armor, you're tough, you're strong, you're in your own, because that puts a whole different mindset and feeling, which means frequency. So never protection. I always armored myself. And then I would take that C60 molecule or buckyball or soccer ball shape we talked about and not bring it from outside around me. So think if we were working in a field all day and we got dirty, we jumped in bed, pulled clean covers, you just covered up the dirt. So when I'm armoring myself, I'm expanding this sacred shape from inside my heart around me. So it's not gathering or netting negative energies or this, that, or the other. It's coming from within out, fill it with love, and then just silver mirrors on the inside and out. And in essence, you're in a little love bubble. So you're in love all day. And when you're in love all day, and I didn't say with somebody, but just in the essence of love, you actually heal yourself physically and energetically. Negativity stays away from you. So it affects you on many levels.
Wow. Okay, so my favorite, Mothman.
Oh, yeah.
Is he positive, negative, just a thing? Is he real? Are we seeing something else?
They've attributed a lot of things to that. So
they've given him credit for a lot of bad things.
Yeah. So it's government, it's ETs, it's the Mothman. There's lots of things, or they're given credit for that individual. But there's beings there's dog beings. There's dog men, they're called. Yeah, there are. That's where they're.
So a Mothman is probably just a being sitting there looking. And then
more spiritual form. That was a spiritual entity that some people picking up on the other frequencies were seeing, kind of thing. So it's not an actual humanoid with a bunch of moth wings or anything like that flying around. No, but they can manifest. So basically, in the people's imagination, which is real, so I didn't say they made it up, that's where they see it, and it overlays. So even for somebody like me, when I'm communicating with somebody's guide or spirit guide, they'll pop in here about 50%. And then you'll phase out. So again, dialing that, and that's what happens.
Wow.
And depending on your environment, the more control of your dials or frequencies you have. And that's why there's a lot going on in our environment with 5G now. I think, think control. Again, everything's a projector screen, not 2D, flat, 3D. So they can make a person stand there in 3D and communicate. It looks like a hologram.
Wow.
Things like that.
You really have to get your class on it. Courage is enjoying his Shungite water.
Oh, nice.
There you go, buddy.
Good.
So all that. Now, if we could really see all the entities, we would freak out, wouldn't we?
Oh, you'd feel like you were in an overpacked room. And then most of them, when I see them, are a few feet off the ground. So it's not that they're floating there, it's just a shifting of frequencies is the best I can figure out.
They're on a different...
Yeah, just a different layer. And
he's
I don't really...
Cough this way, Courage. He has a little... his lungs fill with water, so after he drinks, he goes...
Oh, gotcha.
You all right, buddy? There's a lot of maintenance with my little guy.
He's probably worth it, though.
Oh, Oh my God. In fact, it's funny. I have a friend that's an acupuncturist and a pet acupuncturist. And she would say, dogs are amazing. They do an autopsy on them and find cancer where they should have been dead years ago. And they just keep going. And
our pets take one for the team, you can say. So if we have energy issues, they'll take it on and sometimes pass on from cancers for us.
Yeah.
And so anybody can do their own, what's called, Reiki or loving energy around their own animals and dogs. They'll have a huge effect. So
does anything scare you?
Not anymore. It used to years ago, but no, now it's more of a, interesting sort of thing. But.
So even dark entities, you feel powerful enough? Because, that's the interesting thing. You going to go again, Courage? Here he goes. All right, buddy. He's good now. So now the Skinwalker Ranch, which I've been trying to get somebody to talk about the whole thing. Skinwalker Ranch is in Utah. It's this place where Skinwalker is a Native American witch, I think. It looks like a wolf. And they talk about how there's a long history there of warring Indian tribes and stuff like that. So they think that somebody unleashed sort of this Skinwalker there, which to me looks like there's been some sort of portal opening or something, because now it's active with everything. It has ETs, it's got lights, it's got Bigfoot, it's got everything. And it's very much a place of unrest. It's very unrest. And also, one of the stories I heard, because it was bought by a gentleman who put all these scientists on there, and he paid for them and said, do it. So they talked about a lot of them had their mind get controlled. They could hear, we got to get out of here. Somebody's telling me blah, blah, blah. Also, at one point they had night vision glasses. One of them had night vision glasses. Everyone else is seeing a light. The guy with the night vision glasses sees a tunnel and watches something step out of that tunnel. Is that a good analogy, or is that how it might look like?
Yeah, that's one way, definitely. And I have night vision here, and I bring them out in classes and show people how everything is frequency. But in that environment on that ranch, it's a less dense frequency. So think a lot of radio stations playing at once is what's going on. And depending on how tuned you got your radio or physical body, and you're able to play with your dials, your chakras, will be what you pick up on. But some of us that are just naturally, say, empathic, will feel the emotions, and they may look like ghosts, they may look like skinwalkers, this, that, and the other. But it's lots of movies playing over each other at once, or different layers. So there's a lot going on.
So now, if someone is having trouble, I'm trying to think the people that, I think you helped with a lot of health issues about that frequencies have been added. How do we adjust to that if somebody's having trouble? Because I'm getting a lot of people that are like really, I don't know how to say it, if they're getting ill or they can't get up, or all of a sudden they're feeling overwhelmed. How would you suggest they sort of deal with that?
Sure, and that's the whole armor I was talking about. So rather than bringing from without, bring it from within, and use your imagination, and just think, there's lots of ways of visualizing it, but a calming of energies or frequencies. So again, I like using the analogy of songs on your playlist. Delete the ones from the 80s you don't need anymore, and keep it blank with love, or add new ones. But it's all your imagination. But bring it from inside and stay in that frequency or environment, a loving one, more often than not. And that's your armor. And that's what people call protection. So it's all from within, but realize your imagination is, again, more real than anything else you see. It really is.
Now, when someone calls you for a reading, which you do them over the phone, I'm sure.
I do.
And you should be charging more.
I've been told that.
So do they call you with questions? Do you go with what you get? Do they get their guides information?
All the above, and you don't have to have a set structure. You don't have to have questions. You can just open up, because I'll immediately connect with what's usually termed spirit guides, and they have lots of information. They're not just standing there waiting for you to ask. They're going to just start telling me all kinds of things. So you don't have to call questions or anything. There'll be lots. But then we affect energies from all your lifetimes, not just this one, because you're in the deep end of the pool here. So when you realize that, then you can affect things that people call karmas that carry from lifetime to lifetime. But when you realize that doesn't need to happen, well, then you can have an effect on that, and you can remove them. But when you do things like that, then you have your guides help you. So think unplugging something from the wall, think a karma attachment. Well, you don't want to leave it open, fill it with love. So little tips and tricks like that, so you don't leave openings where things can fill in. But you can get a lot done, and yeah, it's all remotely. It's really, so somebody like me who works with energies, it's really the other person having an effect on themselves. So we're more of a conductor. So it's we can each have an effect on ourselves immensely.
So you're sort of a medical intuitive too.
I am. Mm-hmm.
See, that's what, and it's so funny because I refer a lot of people out. I always say I'm the connector. Mm-hmm. So I can do readings, but I know if you need to talk to that person or that person. And I've just recently had someone that I needed to find a medical medium for, and I found one woman, and now I found you. Mm-hmm. So that's a great thing to know, because I'm actually going to get a reading after our thing.
Awesome.
So I don't even know where to go now because there's so many topics. Do you see the elementals in the woods?
I do. I have to ask. So basically, think tuning the frequency, and it's really your intent. So I do that and then focus, and then they'll come into view. So if you're sitting here with me, you'll go out of focus about 50%, and then the other frequencies or your guides will come in. So I'm watching a movie.
You teach people this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I give an enhancing your intuition class. Wow. Yeah, and it's all, again, working with your understandings and enhancing them. We can all do it. You don't have to be born some super psychic. You can just, again, build the puzzle of life, put the pieces together, and then your abilities will turn into understandings, and then you have these.
And believe.
Yeah, it is. It's all tied together.
Like you said, take away that phrase, gift.
That's right, yeah. No, they're all just, they're senses that we all have, but we're not taught to use them. So if we tie all those senses in, again, your third eye, your gut, your heart, on top of your sight and smell and touch, you get a bigger picture. You can do a lot more. Now,
and I feel like I'm dragging this is just going to go long because I'm just going to hold on to you long as I can. So I started with the sound.
Okay.
Singing bowls. Mm-hmm. Is that a good way? Like I said, I notice it affects him, it affects me, it sort of clears the space. Mm-hmm. Is that a good way for people that, say we have people, because I know a lot of people think they're hearing you and they know they have the ability, but they can't quite put it together. Mm-hmm. So are things like that, like that's a 3D thing that they can use to clear their house?
That's a sound that affects frequency. So sound and frequency are two different things. So you do want to do that. So that would be like having a glass of Kool-Aid. You want the red Kool-Aid punch out of there so then you can remove that but leave the positive, the water. So bowls, sound bowls, there's lots of different devices that will do that, frequency devices. Think a calming of energies, which removes, again, that negative song from your playlist. So now you have room for more. And then it's just a new environment then. But yeah, the bowls are a great idea for that. But then if you're going to remove a frequency, so think a blanket from your bed that's really itchy, well, I would then overlay it with love. So if you're using the bowl, just think of love feeling, that emotion, and then that will actually generate in that frequency that goes.
So I could use the bowl sort of clearing and then think love frequency, and then the bowl puts the love in the room.
Love is, think etheric stem cells. So that way they're going to be what the person needs. You're not pretending to know, oh, that client of mine needs energy or frequency 2.5, whatever. I'm just making this up. Nope, you're going to make it etheric energy, just love, and it'll be what they need. And then the guides get involved. So I watch other Reiki masters do this as well. And the guides are really involved. So they're just saying, be more vague. Don't be specific when you're involved. So don't say, I need this human to have this, that, and the other. No, just say, I want what's best for them. Right. And then that's when it comes in.
That's a good tip because, things are manifesting now. And a lot of them are manifesting in if somebody's asking for time off, they might end up in the hospital. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
Like we have to be very specific.
Yep.
So people can call you for readings.
Yes.
Okay. This is where everybody gets the Shungite.
Yep.
And I said it right.
Any form of Shungite, exactly, yeah.
And also, I'm looking, folks, I'm hoping to work with you on some merch to sell after shows, especially the sticker for people to have in their phones. You're going to help me make some Paranormal Karen stickers out of the Shungite? I can't wait.
Perfect.
I'm trying to think of jokes for that on stage, because usually when you sell merch, you get a good joke with it.
Oh, sure.
So I'm going to have to come up with those. And also, it's so funny, I just ordered a little plastic case that people can get their own straw with.
Oh, okay.
And they can use that for cocaine.
Ah, funny.
So all that stuff. Okay. Now, about your little store here, that's fantastic. People need to go online, cosmicreality.net, where...
That's the main, that's the Shungite portion, but this physical store is mysticalwares.net. And that's mysticalwares.net. And that's where we have all the Shungite products and think polished rocks and gems and my readings for bookings. So you can book a reading there.
That's great. And well, I can't think what else. I guess we're going to see you at the show tonight, right?
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Derek, anytime, anything new, any news, please text or email me. I adore you. My fans adore you. You have so much to teach us. Thank you so much for letting me stop by your store. And I'm so excited about my goodie basket.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Karen.
Oh, wonderful. All right, folks. If you give me 5 stars. Whoops, that was me. I'm sorry. I woke you up. Courage. I got all excited. Wherever you listen, whatever you're on, I always get like extra stars. I'm like, yay. If you give me 5 stars wherever, go to karenrontowski.com. I'm getting my new website up. You can take my tarot class. You can see comedy dates. Sign up for my email list. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.